I had a baby as a result of an affair and now his wife is reaching out to me. I am not Oop. Oop is you, Free River 3388. Originally posted to R. True off my chest. I had a baby as a result of an affair and now his wife is reaching out to me. Trigger warnings. Infidelity. Past abuse. Mention of abortion. Deadbeat father. Coercion. Less than. And NBSP. Original post. January 28, 2024. I. F. 26. Had an affair with a married man. M. 42. A few years ago. I had no clue he was married when we first met and hooked up. I obviously looked him up on social media, and while he did have photos of his kids on there was absolutely no mention or photos of a wife at all. I found out that he was married about a month after we first got together. But he told me it was just a marriage on paper and that they basically lived separate lives and agreed to remain married for practical purposes until the kids were older. They owned a business, which she really ran, and he was just financially involved in. I knew at the time that I probably shouldn't believe him, but I convinced myself it was true. I was in my early 20s and so attracted to him, and I guess almost infatuated with him. He made me feel so good. I know now that I should have ended it immediately. But I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I was addicted to all of the attention he gave me. The great sex. The places he'd take me. I felt special. I was so naive. I got pregnant about a year into seeing him. I had always been so careful with preventing pregnancy. But during my relationship with him I took stupid risks. I was so high in lust with this guy. It's embarrassing. The things he'd ask me to do. I'd say yes to almost anything. Even when I knew it was a bad idea. I was in love with him. Or I thought I was. I hadn't intentionally wanted to get pregnant. I would of course dream about being his wife and having a family, but I knew that wouldn't be a possibility while he had this arrangement with his actual wife. I didn't get pregnant on purpose with any intention of him leaving her for me. Even if I wished that we could be a real, normal couple. I was surprised by how excited I was to be pregnant with his baby. I wanted that baby once I found out I was pregnant. The thought of carrying this baby of the man I loved was so special to me. But I knew he probably wouldn't feel the same. I told him I was pregnant and he told me I couldn't keep the baby. I expected his reaction, but I was devastated, and it hurt me to my core that he didn't feel the same way I did. He offered to pay, to make a whole weekend of it somewhere exciting. WTF? And to buy me something special if I'd just please get rid of the baby. He explained that he didn't want any more kids and that he couldn't openly be a father to another kid when he and his wife were still pretending to be happily married to the outside world. I agreed to do what he wanted, and we made plans for him to pick me up and find somewhere out of town to go get it done. I was all packed the night he was going to pick me up. But I started to feel really scared and really unsafe about the whole thing. I took my bag and checked myself into a hotel to hide because I couldn't go with him. I texted him to say I promised to never contact him again and to never name him as the father or go after child support if he'd promised to leave me alone. At first he tried to sweet talk me into doing what he wanted. When I didn't cave in, he said some very nasty things to me, and that I essentially better never contact him again or show up at his door. I have a 2-year-old now. At times, it's been difficult, but overall we are thriving as best we can. I have kept my word about not naming his as the father or requesting child support. His wife contacted me on social media. Well, she's his ex-wife now. She wants to talk to me. She found out about me and told me that she divorced him 6 months ago. She wants her children to know their sibling and for my child to know his siblings. That's weird to me. I haven't responded back to her yet. I am unsure about how to approach this. How do I respond to this? I wonder if I'm being selfish by not exploring an option for my child to know his siblings. If she's being genuine about that. If I was married and my husband fathered a child outside of our marriage, I don't think I'd feel the same that she does. Relevant comments. Comment 1: I didn't know he was married when we first got together. I acknowledge that I should have ended the relationship as soon as I found out he was married. I allowed myself to believe what he told me, which made it seem not so bad, like this was some sort of agreement he and his wife had. Emotionally, I was already hooked. I'm not making excuses. I wouldn't say I was happy to bring a baby into this situation. There was a huge mix of emotions. I felt like I was in love with him. So there was a part of me that was excited at first. That feeling soon died. But I felt that I loved my baby still. I tried to do the best thing that I could, which was to remove myself from his life and his family's life. I just wanted to be able to keep my baby and love my baby. I did not get pregnant on purpose. I wasn't on birth control. I had been on birth control when I was slightly younger and had a life-threatening health complications as a result. He knew I wasn't on birth control. He loved unprotected sex. I was stupid and I agreed to do it. I would do almost anything he asked sexually. I tried to track my cycle and would tell him when it was probably not a safe time to do it. His wife isn't really what I'm afraid of. Whatever she'd want to say to me is probably deserved anyway. And more. Comment 2: he found out about the pregnancy before I ghosted him. And upon finding out I was pregnant with his child, there was absolutely no real discussion about what we were going to do. We were going to do what he wanted to do and he had it all planned out. He threatened me, by text and by phone calls and voicemails. When I told him I was not going to go with him on this abortion vacation he had planned, I begged him to please not force me to do that and he turned mean. I offered to never contact him again if he'd just let me go. After threatening me again, about what he'd do if I didn't keep my word, he agreed. He has kept his side of the bargain and has never contacted me. Comment 3: I've been assuming that she found out about me in her own. Maybe saw something on his phone or computer and has probably known for a while before reaching out to me. If it's actually her, I get what some people are saying about siblings and such. But that man is not my child's dad. He is the dad of his older kids, but he's not the dad of my kid. I'm still young and I hope to have more children one day. And those children would be my son's siblings. I hope to find a man who loves me and my son and with whom I can have a legitimate relationship. I haven't been with another man since I ended things with this guy. I actually just went on 2 dates for the first time very recently. I'm not desperate to find a man right now, but I hope to find real love one day. Those people are not my son's family. He's 2 and they're old enough to drive. So, I do think they're missing out on any sort of important relationship right now. I understand wanting to know your bio family, and I feel he can decide that later on when he's old enough to have a day. Depending on where we are at in our lives at the time, he might not feel a need to know those people. I don't plan to lie to my son about his conception, but I don't think we need to involve ourselves with the man's ex-wife and teenage children at this time. And NBSP update, February 18, 2024. I made a post 3 weeks ago and things have only gotten stranger. I had an affair with a married man a few years ago. I regret it and I will never do anything like that ever again. I knew it was wrong from the very beginning, but he captivated me. I was naive. I allowed myself to believe when he told me they were pretty much just married on paper for the sake of their kids. I got pregnant and while he tried to talk me into getting an abortion, I ultimately decided to keep the baby. I have a 2-year-old little boy now. I promised this man that I wouldn't expose our affair and I wouldn't formally identify him as the father or request child support. I did that because he was becoming very nasty about the whole thing, and I felt like due to the mess that I had created and the way I felt by the end of it, a clean break with no involvement with him would be the best thing for everyone. I moved back to where my family is, hundreds of miles from where he and his family live. About a month ago, his ex-wife reached out to me via social media, claiming they had been divorced for 6 months and that she wanted our children to be able to know each other. Now, their kids are teenagers, so I didn't really think they'd want anything to do with the toddler and the woman their father was having an affair with. It seemed odd to me. After posting here, I sort of decided that I wouldn't respond to her. I'd just ignore it. She just sent me the one message, so it wasn't as if she was badgering me about talking to me or meeting me. On Friday night, I decided to message her. I don't really know why. I think it was really just for my sake, so I could have the chance to apologize to her. I told her that I would be more comfortable speaking with her face to face since I couldn't trust that it was really her. She said she understood. I was too nervous to meet her in person, but we did a video chat. I didn't know what to expect. If this was all a ploy just to unleash her fury on me or what. I mean, I deserve that. She wouldn't be wrong to feel that way. It was really her. She told me she discovered our affair when she found communications between the two of us after our relationship had ended. She told me I'm one of many women he had affairs with over the years, and she knew about somebody even before he met me. But she didn't divorce him at the time. Finding out about my child was the final straw for her. I told her I was sorry for my relationship with her husband and admitted that I knew he was married. She graciously told me she forgives me and that while she harbored a lot of anger towards me initially, she ultimately blames her husband. I'm not blameless, but she chooses to not hate me. Essentially, she said she couldn't have said this 6 months ago or a year ago when she first found out about me. But she has moved past that. She still has anger toward him, in addition to many other emotions surrounding him. She started pouring out her heart to me about their 20-plus-year marriage and life together, and it was very awkward because what do I even say? Her kids know about me and my son. She says they're very mad at their father. Somehow I don't think they're mad about the fact that he's not involved with my son's life. And why would they be mad about that? I would hate me if I were them. I told her with my son being so little right now, I don't really feel comfortable with him meeting her kids or being involved with their family. I feel unsure about it, and it's just not something I feel needs to happen right now. Then she told me her ex-husband was in a bad accident 2 months ago. He's fine now, still not allowed to return to all his normal activities just yet, but will be fine. He is probably the most physically active person I've ever met, barely ever seems to sit down. So he must be terribly annoying to be around if he's not allowed to go all the time. She told me he wants to meet my son. Apparently she moved back in with him temporarily when he first came home from the hospital. She said the accident really shook him up and he has been expressing a lot of regret about my son not being involved, not providing for him. So now it's like, was everything she said just a lie and he somehow got her to reach out to me on his behalf? And she actually did it? It felt almost like a relief talking to her initially. But then it's like, was any of that true, or you were just trying to be his messenger? I don't even know if that part is true now. Why wouldn't he just contact me himself? I'm just feeling so uneasy about the whole thing now. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I don't believe I have to involve his teenage children in my son's life. Maybe when my son is old enough to decide if he wants that. He is not named on the birth certificate and I do not receive child support from him. I have asked nothing of him, except to let me move away and not try to force me to have an abortion. I basically had to promise him to not contact him, not make him as the father, not request child support. If he truly wants involvement with my son, he can reach out to me directly and he can take the legal route to establish himself as our son's father. Comment 2. He did not legally sever his rights. He never established rights in the first place. He has no rights until he goes to court and establishes himself as the father. He is welcome to do that. Honestly, I wish my son did have a father who was involved in his life and loved him. Yes, this guy has faults, but he has plenty of positive qualities. He is really involved with his older children. I met them many times because they'd be at work with him or he'd have to drop by the office in his way to take them somewhere. He was always doing things with them. They seemed like good kids who really loved their dad. I wish my son could have that experience too. I didn't think it was an option based on how he behaved when I was pregnant. He wasn't interested and wanted me and our baby to go away. That's what I did, and I accepted it. Comment 3. He is not legally my son's father at this time. This means that currently he has no legal parental rights or responsibilities regarding my son. I cannot stop him from taking the legal steps to establish paternity if he wishes to do so. He will always be my son's biological father. I can't change that fact, regardless of whether or not he ever legally establishes paternity. My son will likely be curious about his biological father, and who knows? Maybe they will establish a relationship one day regardless of legal paternity. There is no way to say if I will meet a man who may want to adopt my son one day, thus becoming his legal father. It's something that I think would be nice, but nothing that I'm intent on doing by choice. I've only been on 2 dates since my son was born, and that was only within the year 2024. I realize that it will not be as simple as signing a piece of paper. And NBSP. This is a repost sub. I am not oop. The guy had a near-death experience and now wants to use the child to assuage his own guilt and moral failings. He's still the same selfish bastard. One woman divorced and the other cut off, abandoned, and he's still manipulating both of them. Well, damn, Reddit called it again. I remember her first post and telling her to stay away from that hot mess. And it's just become an even hotter mess with steam rising out of it. I also don't want to be an asshole, but how angry could this woman actually be at her ex-husband if she's moved back in with him? I don't know. I don't claim to say human beings are rational or make sense. I don't want to be offensive and say she might need to work on her self-esteem in a mean way. But there's got to be something here that I'm missing. I swear. We need to teach 18-25-year-olds that when the much older man says he and his wife are separated and only living together because insert reason here, he's lying. We have seen this far too many times. And I know for a fact it happens far too often. I DK about oop, but I would block her. Something is off about this story. I'd need proof they're divorced, or I'd be certain they're trying to steal the baby. The wife is the kindly face of the operation and he's wounded, sad, and has been humbled by facing his own mortality. He's surely not a threat. They'll start by offering money, unofficially, to help with necessities. They will later use this in custody hearings to establish that she cannot adequately provide for the baby. They'll get the kids together to bond, which they'll also use as evidence the baby is best suited to her father's home. They'll say she ran away and came back to them because she's in over her head and needs help, and the best thing is for them to take the baby with their 2-parent home, loving siblings, and stacks of money. But the judge will miraculously side with the mother despite overwhelming odds. And the wife of the father will scream, "No. If I can't be that baby's mother, I don't want to be anyone's mother," and shoot her children in the courtroom as a protest. I went all "Bo are you" at the end there, but they're definitely up to no good either way. This sounds like a plot twist even a soap opera would think twice about. On a serious note, it's heartening to see conversations about moving forward and healing. Maybe start with a group chat? At least there's less chance of accidentally walking into a surprise family reunion at the coffee shop. They're still a couple and wife wants another baby. That baby. Does she actually know what the ex-wife looks like? Is she 100% sure that's who she spoke to? I want to hear more about why Oop started feeling unsafe and scared the night before the abortion. A rare BORU where the word therapy has not been used once. She said the accident really shook him up and he has been expressing a lot of regret about my son not being involved, not providing for him. Funny how he didn't mention paying the child support he should have been paying. Trust your gut. When I was 5, my dad cheated on my mom. She kicked him out, and I only heard from him on Christmas and my birthday until I was 12. When he wrote me a letter that he had a new wife and kids and didn't want anything to do with me. When I was 24, he contacted me. We talked. I tried, but after a few calls, the letter came up. He played dumb, and I lost it. We never spoke again. I stopped speaking to my mom in 2020. She was abusive and narcissistic my whole life. Nowadays there are words to what she did. Unloading her divorce and her emotional needs on her child until she met her next man. And the next one. And the next one. The physical and emotional abuse. The scars I still carry at 35. I reached out to all the family my mom scared away. My aunts and uncles. My cousins. My stepsister she convinced my stepfather to abuse and chase away. I had a family. Finally. Then I got a call from my dad. He had pancreatic cancer. And come to find out, a month to live. He just wanted to hear my voice. After all the times I buried the hatchets my mother sharpened, I guess the word is, open. My mother and stepfather are miserable and alone, stuck in their anger and hate. I didn't want to live like that anymore. So I planned to go see him. Unfortunately his brother, my uncle, called the day he died. My partner and I just left and drove for 9 hours. I arrived 2 hours after he passed. I met his family the day he passed. February 19, 2023. And I learned so much. My mother cheated. They were separated. I was 5 and didn't know enough to understand the timelines. As he tried to stay in my life, she abused him. She lied about him. She forged that letter. I have it still. And in finally mustering up the courage to look 23 years later, I see my stepdad's writing. All that pain and misery. The fact that he always loved me and tried to get custody of me and tried to be with me. And the fact that he's the one relationship my mother got away with stealing from me. Haunts me. I need therapy. I need to cry. I need to mourn. And I don't know how. But I have my siblings. And my stepmom. And that matters. I say this to OP. If they see this, I'm not defending that monster of a man. Or his strange wife. But your son will one day deserve the right to decide who he wants as family and who he doesn't. I'm not saying you have to give up control. I'm just begging you. Even if it's supervised visits. Those kids might just love your kid. And your kid may one day love them. Build an open door for that connection. So your son can open or close it at their choice. I promise. It will make a world of difference for the rest of their lives. People really just have babies left and right with just anybody. No mention of financial support. No mention of the father during the initial message. Why does this seem shady to me? She needs to hire a lawyer and have all communications go through the lawyer just to protect herself and her kid. Who knows what those two are trying to do here? I wouldn't trust anything or anyone in this situation, but I am a paranoid dude, so take it as you may. Perhaps the ex-wife has decided she'll forgive him and stick around if they tie up the loose end, i.e. adopt the OOP's child. The way she kept moving the goalposts when OP was saying no first it's, my kids should know their sibling, and when that doesn't work it's, he's ill and has regrets. Nah. I suspect she just wants that kid. Wife wants proof the baby is her husband's so she can use that in court. Very weird to say the least. She is very angry toward the husband, but he moved back with his family? Something do not add up here. I would not trust any of that.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe